TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey, welcome to the show. This is In the Batter's Box. My name is Scott Webb, and I appreciate you coming in on a Saturday. I wanted to kind of quickly just to recap a little bit about what we did yesterday, because it was a little bit interesting here on the show. I gave out like all kinds of different stuff yesterday. We talked about Boston, gave out Boston and Houck yesterday. Had a rain delay. He struggled a little bit. It was the Yankees went ahead, 3-0. Then it became 3-1. Then with 2 strikes and 1 strike left, Boston hits a home run, ties the game, and goes into extra innings. Extra innings, Boston wins the game. So if you played that, that was a winner. And we got that from the numbers that I make in the Webby odds. So that was a play we got from Webby odds. That worked out fine. Another play we gave out yesterday was we gave out Arizona Diamondbacks over 4.5 runs. And in the first inning, they come right out and score 2 runs. And then they didn't score again until the 9th inning. And I'm like, holy crap. So, and then in the 9th inning, they scored 5 times. So they ended up scoring 7. And then that was a crazy game where San Diego came back and scored, I think, 2 or 3 more runs to win that game. But anyway, that was a winner. And then we got that one from, we were attacking as pitcher yesterday. So we were using some data and some numbers to attack a certain pitcher. We talked about Detroit yesterday, and my numbers came up with a good play there. And Detroit hung on. I mean, I think they won 5-4 over Cincinnati yesterday, but the pitcher did well, and the value was good. So there was another winner we gave out. We gave out one that we said kind of was a stretch, because when you have 2 bad teams play, the predictability is bad. So you don't know exactly what to expect. And we had the White Sox play in Miami yesterday. So, and we said that Thorpe was the better option, and you could get him as a dog, and they won the game relatively handily yesterday. So no issues with that one. So that was another winner. And this one's kind of an interesting one. Webby odds got this one too. And this was the Philadelphia Phillies with Aaron Nola as a plus 120 dog. And they did great against Atlanta, so no sweats there either. Atlanta came back in the game, made it a little bit competitive. I think the final was 8-6. But that was 1, 2, 3, 4. That was 5 winners. And I did give out, I think, 1 loser. It was New York Mets and the Pirates yesterday, first 5 under 4. And I think at the end of 5, it was 5 runs. So we missed that one. But the point being is that when you look at what you're doing and how you're doing it, the key is to replicate that. So you want to understand where your plays came from, and can you do that again the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day? Because ultimately, that's kind of the way this works. And then as they start to dry up, that's when you start searching for other avenues and other ways to find, certain values to make plays and win your bets. So when you start looking at breaking down games and you start to look at the slate for each day, you kind of have a pigeonhole as to what you're looking for. And, the first thing is, we talked about was attacking a pitcher, right? So in today's breakdowns of these games, I'm going to slide my pitching report over here so we can get to them. A simple way for me to do it is to go to the SOPS plus last 28 days for all the pitchers on the board today. And SOPS plus, again, is the OPS, so on-base percentage plus slugging percentage. The plus sign just represents the idea that it has been manufactured so that there's no stadium effect advantage. So if you're playing in Colorado or in Arizona or somewhere where the ball flies because of the humidity level or whatever, or high, not humidity, but the elevation level, you're not being as grading on on pitchers, you're not being disadvantaged to everybody else. So it's graded in, and the S is just a predictive measure, right? So when you're looking at this, what we want to try to do is identify the worst pitchers today, and then when we identify those worst pitchers, we need to find a way to bet against them. And sometimes it's the money line. Sometimes it's a run line because the money line's too high and there's not enough value there. Sometimes you don't have any value in those at all, so you play a team total. So let's look at what we have today. So the number one pitcher that is bad is a 158. So that means he's 58% worse than an average pitcher. So that's not very good. If you're just an average guy and then you're 58% worse than an average guy, that's not very good. So that pitcher today is Logan Allen in Cleveland. So that's a pitcher we want to try to figure out, how do we attack that guy. So my numbers, that's the first thing I do then, is kind of flip it over and say, okay, well, what's the odds look like? And where's that Cleveland game? There it is. So my number on this game, I have Cleveland minus 115. And the actual number is like 130. So there's a small little bit of value maybe on San Francisco, but I don't think there's enough there, because when you're playing it this way, you're like, okay, well, we're going to attack this pitcher. Well, you got to keep in mind that you have a pitcher too, and Cleveland has an offense, and how does that kind of all fold together and match out? So in this particular case, that matchup is not necessarily the most favorable thing, because the pitcher for San Francisco, even though he's won a lot of starts, his name is Harrison, and he's coming off the disabled list today, making his first start since June the 10th. So he hasn't started for 4 or 5 weeks now. So I don't want to necessarily jump out there and go, okay, he's going to be great and he's going to do all these wonderful things, because that's not what happens. I think Cleveland will hit him. So I don't want to get into a slugfest and see which team is going to outslug the other one. So that eliminates a lot of plays here, right? I can't play the run line. I can't play the money line. There's no value in those things. So now we have to look at it and go, well, let's just see how bad Allen really is. So in metrics, when I say metrics, what I talk about are sabermetrics, and I talk about XFIP numbers. So it's fielding independent pitching, and that just measures home runs, walks, and strikeouts. But the X is in front of it. All it means is it's predictive based on what he's doing and what his pitching has been up to now. So, and I look at it on 30 days. So his 30 days, he's at his metrics are 5.40 in XFIP, Sierra numbers 533, and his XFIP number is 653. Now, if I was to take that and throw that out there, he is the second worst pitcher in metrics today. So, okay, I get it. He's not very good. We should see some success for the Giants on offense. He doesn't strike guys out. It's a 5.92 walk rate, or strikeout rate. That is in the 25% worst of Major League Baseball pitchers. So that means balls are going to be put in play. I don't have to worry about guys striking out all the time. We're not betting with Seattle here. Seattle strikes out 34% of the time. Did you know that? That's a lot. So that's 5.92 strikeout rate. But not only that, he walks 4 guys per 9 innings. That's in the worst 25% of all of baseball. So he puts guys on base. We got balls in play. We got no strikeouts. And he makes mistakes and gives up home runs, 2.22 home runs per 9 innings. Again, anything over 1 is not good. Anything over 1.5, and you're in the worst percentage of baseball, and he's over 2. So, okay, we got a pitcher here that we can take advantage of. His walks plus hits divided by innings pitched, his whip rate is 1.52. You want that to be a good pitcher is going to be below 1. So a guy like Brown, who's pitching for the Astros today, he's a 0.90. So he's really good. This guy we're talking about, Logan Allen, is a 1.52. He's really bad. So now we got guys on base all over the place. We got the opportunity to hit the ball. Giants seem like they have an opportunity to score some runs. So instead of trying to figure out all the other stuff, because we don't care in this case, I'm not going to care what happens with the Cleveland team. I'm going to look at it from a team total perspective. And when I looked at it, so let's address this real quick, because when you're betting say first 5 minus a half a run, or you're betting the run line minus 1.5, those numbers are reflective of the total runs scored in the game, not of the money line. So they're not correlated. So when you make your bets and you're going, hey, I want to reduce my odds. I don't want to pay minus 170. Well, nobody wants to pay that if they don't really have to. But minus 170, I'm going to change that, and I'm going to pay minus 115, minus 1.5 on the run line. Well, you got to remember that they're not correlated. So the 1.5 is not reflective of the money line. It's reflective of the total. So team totals are the same way. So in this game, I think the number was 8. I can look it up real fast. If I can get my computer to come back on. They went to sleep. But the idea is we want to try to find a good value, a good way to make this stuff work. And one of those, let me flip this over to here real fast, is to look at team totals. Now, the team total was set in this game, and a lot of times, I shouldn't say a lot of times, every time it's based off of the market. The total in this game is 8.5. Well, the Giants are the underdog. So you usually have a 4.5 and a 3.5. And that's what they have. So the Giants team total is 3.5 in this game. And we found a pitcher we can attack. Now the number is 3.5 and it's minus 130, right? Minus 135. So it's 3.5 minus 135. So then I went and I said, okay, that's probably pretty good. Let's go see, do we have an offense that can really take advantage of this bad pitcher? So then I clicked on my offense report, and the offense report comes back and says, well, the Giants are 7th in baseball currently in offensive WAR. They're 7th in isolated power, so that's really good because he's taking advantage of all the things that the pitcher can't do. And then secondly, they are 25% better than an average offense. So I think that's pretty good. So you sit there and you go, that's pretty good. They score 5.2 runs per game, 31 runs in the last 6 games. So we like all of those things. And then you weigh it out and go, well, what can they get over 3.5? Well, First thing is, yes, the answer to that question is yes. They're actually favored to do so. Second thing is, this is the worst pitcher on the board today. So we think they can really take advantage because they're the 7th best offense. I like it. I played it myself. This is one of those spots where I think you take the Giants and go, let's go, guys, and let's have fun, and let's bring the big boy bats out and let's take advantage of this pitcher. So we've done this a couple of times on the show, and this is kind of where I'm kind of breaking this down and trying to show you how you can replicate the same thing if you know what you're looking for, right? You got to have the data so it's at your fingertips. So a lot of this stuff breaks down to this. Baseball in particular, football is a little different. Basketball is certainly different than the others. But the reality is you need information to make choices and decisions, but you need to have quality information too. So what if I told you that nothing that I use has their batting average? Nothing that I use has an earned run average. Nothing that I use has quality starts and stuff like that. That's all for fans and other people and other things to look at. We don't care about that. We care about winning a bet. And winning a bet means we need specific information that will help us with understanding what the bet is. And then based on what the bet is, that information helps us decide whether or not we want to put our money in the pot to win it, right? Like if you're playing poker, we have a better percentage chance than the minus 135 to win this bet because of the deficiencies of this pitcher. He's the worst on the card today, and the Giants offense being good. The last part of this whole thing was he's a left-handed pitcher. So I do break it down because sometimes you see teams that are really good against left-handed pitchers, and sometimes you see teams that are really bad. So, for example, the Miami Marlins have played 30 left-handed pitchers so far this year, 30. Their record against left-handed pitchers is 4 wins, 26 losses against left-handed pitchers. Well, guess who they play today? They play the White Sox and Garrett Crochet, who just happens to probably be the best left-handed pitcher in baseball. That's another thing where that data point comes along, and that data point says, hey, you should look at me. Let's start looking at maybe making a bet based off of some of these decisions. Now, that's a different game. So when I looked at this game, it's kind of conflicting information. The Giants have played 27 times against left-handed pitchers. They've only won 10. They're 10-17. Now, the Giants are a little bit below 500, so if they played 27 times, you might expect them to be 10-9, somewhere in that neighborhood, right around 500-ish, maybe a little bit low, 9-10, 8-10, something like that. So they're a little bit off of that. But their weighted runs created plus number against left-handed pitching is plus 17%. That means they're 17% better than an average offense against left-handed pitchers. So I expect them to hit. I expect them to do well. I expect them to score more than 3.5 runs. And I think this is a good spot for the San Francisco Giants. So that's play number 1, right? So play number 1, San Francisco Giants. Now, we got to talk a little bit about some of these things that happen in these games and some of the stuff that comes up. Kansas City Royals. So let's talk about them for a second. I think they've been exposed over the last week or so. That they haven't fared real well. The Tampa Bay Rays played them. The Rays are kind of a 500-ish team. They're below 500 record-wise. And the Royals have been a team that, people have fell in love with. And, they have a pretty good pitching staff. They got guys that can pitch. but their offense is just not very good, and their bullpen is not elite. It might be decent, but it's just not elite. So when you start thinking about them, you need to think about who are the Kansas City Royals and how do I bet them? Well, and when do I bet them? Because you can't bet them when you're going to face a team that is going to be in a slugfest kind of game. So Kansas City Royals today, they face the Colorado Rockies. The Colorado Rockies on offense are the 29th ranked offense in baseball for the last 7 days. Their isolated power is 18th, and weighted runs created plus, they're minus 28%. So they're 28% worse than an average offense. So offensively, they're not a juggernaut. So that means you have an opportunity to look and see what can you do with the Kansas City Royals. So today, the Kansas City Royals are throwing Lugo on the mound. Yesterday, it was Ragans on the mound, and today it's Lugo. So yesterday, I took advantage, and I didn't do this on the show, but the people that follow paid, they got a play yesterday for me, which was Colorado Rockies team total under 4.5. We got a little lucky. I mean, it was 2-2 in the 8th inning, and bullpen came in and related, and they scored 2. So it made it 4, but they stayed under, and that was a winner too. So we had lots of winners yesterday. I think total we had 5 plays on the show and went 4-1 on the show, and then 2 plays that were separate that I gave other people. We're 2-0 on those plays. So I mean, we were 6-1 yesterday on 7 plays. That's a lot of plays. I don't normally talk about with 7 plays, but point being is, you can feel comfortable about the Colorado Rockies offense not being a dynamo. You know, they're not a Dodgers offense or the Orioles offense or the Twins offense or teams like that go out and score a lot of runs. They're not the Astros. They're the Rockies, and the Rockies are arguably the worst team in baseball. They play today at home against the Royals. And the Royals, in my opinion, Ragans is a good guy. He throws real hard. He's left-handed, so it makes him a little more difficult to hit. But they have Lugo on the mound today. And Lugo has made, if I switch this to the right screen, there we go, the right tab, there it is. Lugo has made 18 starts. He's won 12 of them. So the Royals are 12-6 in his starts. His SOPS plus in the last 28 days is 67. So he's 33% better than an average offense. 33%. That's really, really good. There's hardly anybody that's better than him today. Oh, Garrett Crochet. How about that? 47. So he's 53% better than an average pitcher today. He's left-handed. He faces Miami. Just food for thought. So Lugo is 67. So I'm bringing this game up because Austin Gomber is the pitcher for Colorado today. And we just had Logan Allen as the number 1 worst pitcher. The number 2 worst pitcher, but not because he's not very far away, is Austin Gomber. He's a 153 on SOPS plus. 53% worse than an average pitcher. All right, so we kind of clarified what happened with all the stuff that we did for Logan Allen. It all is the same conceptually for Gomber, but now we have a different problem. The problem is that we don't necessarily want to go out and spend the money on Kansas City. They're minus 161 or 160. I don't want to go pay minus 160. So how can we figure out a better solution? So we already know we have a better pitcher, but how much better is the pitcher? I mean, can he shut down this offense? And we talked about how Logan Allen had the second worst metrics. And the metrics for Lugo are 3.01 xFIP, 3.18 for Sierra, and 2.46 for FIP. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean anything to know those data numbers. What's important is to know that those reflect a pitcher that is in the top 25% of all of baseball in those metrics. He's really good. He controls the opponent's offense. We kind of already know that. But he also is 0.28 on giving up home runs. So he doesn't give up home runs. He doesn't walk guys. He's in the top 25% on strikeouts. So it's going to be very difficult for Colorado. They got to work hard to score any runs off of Lugo. And on the vice versa side, we already know that Gomber is not that way. His batting average against is 351. His whip rate is 1.65. He is the hardest hit pitcher today. 45.3% of the balls hit are hard hit balls. And that's the worst percentage of all the pitchers today. He's got a negative WPA, which means his win percent added, he takes away, he doesn't add. So there's good likelihood that the Kansas City Royals offense is going to have a little bit of success. So if we look at the Kansas City Royals offense, they rank 21st in offense. That's not very good. When there's 30 teams and you're 21st, it's not very good. Now, compared to where Colorado is, it's much better. They're 29th. They can only get one spot worse. So when you look at it, though, the difference is isolated power. Isolated power is exactly what offenses are trying to do. They're trying to hit extra bases, doubles, triples, home runs, and isolated power measures that. The Kansas City Royals rank 8th in baseball, even though they're not getting a bunch of hits. The hits they are getting are damaging blows. That's how they're scoring their runs. So they're in a position here where I think they can take advantage of this pitcher. So then you look at it and go, I don't want to pay the minus 160. So we have a good likelihood we're not going to give up a lot of runs and we might score some. So we can either play this on the run line or we can look at it and play it on like a first five. Now, I'm not a big proponent of playing the run line full game unless you have a bullpen that's a shutdown kind of bullpen, because the reality is you want your bullpen to not give up any runs in the backside because you can't afford them. So in this case, the Kansas City Royals rank 18th out of 30 teams in their bullpen, kind of average. Well, the truth is the Rockies bullpen has been terrible all year, but over the last 14 days, they've been pretty good. They've pitched 42 innings and allowed 41 hits, only giving up 2 home runs. So we're not going to necessarily sit there and go capitalize on that. They rank 5th in WAR for bullpens in the last 14 days. So it's better than to say, let's look at the first 5, because that's where we really have our edge. And if you look at the first 5, you can get, and I look at first 5 a little different. First 5 on the run line, you just have to win the first 5. Even if you bet them on the money line, you're planning on winning anyway. So it's minus a half a runs. So you can't tie. You have to win. And when you win the bet. The bet's minus 120. I think that's a reasonable number. I think it's a good price. And I think that Lugo shuts down the Colorado Rockies offense for 5 innings. And I think that you sit there and you go, okay, we got a spot here. Let's play that one. So we have Kansas City first 5 minus a half a run, minus 120. I think there's value there. I think that's a good play. So we've hit 2 of them so far. We hit San Francisco on the team total, and we hit the Kansas City Royals in the first 5 innings, minus a half a run. Now, it's a weird game last night. Sometimes you want to pay attention to the night before of how games end and what happens, and certainly who's available in bullpens and stuff like that. And I say that because the next game we're going to talk about is the San Diego Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. And one of the things I found disappointing this whole season is, the Arizona Diamondbacks were in the World Series last year. And, they got on a little bit of a run, and I get it. They weren't necessarily the best team and all that stuff, but they really are showing to be more of a less than 500 kind of team this year than I think that maybe, I thought they were going to be. They had some issues. They've had plenty of pitching problems. They signed Montgomery, and he hasn't been good. They have Gallen, who has been hurt. They also have the other guy that's a soft tosser that's hurt. So they've had some issues with their pitching. They also have Rodriguez, who haven't even been seen yet, who's been real good. So they've got like 4 aces, and none of them can really stay in there and pitch. So that's been some of their problem. But where I really thought that they would capitalize is, I thought Moreno would start really hitting. I thought Carroll would be really good. And, offensively, I just think they've been so hit or miss. So I've been disappointed in how that team's played. But I've also thought this is a good team to take advantage of because they don't hit. And currently, offensively for Arizona, if you go look at them, they're in that spot where they are. They're hitting. They're number 2 in isolated power. They're 68% better than an average offense. So now we have to be real careful on how we think through these games because Walker, I think, has hit, 5 home runs in the last week or something like that. His offensive WAR number is like 10 in a week. That's like crazy numbers. So he's doing really good. But the Padres have a pitcher that can change that whole dynamic. And their offense ranks 6th. So you got 2 really good offenses going at it. So when you have 2 really good offenses going at it, one needs to either be so far ahead of the other one, and they're kind of right near each other, or the pitchers need to have a difference. And I think in this case, you have a little bit of a pitcher edge for San Diego. So if you haven't followed him, his name is Waldron. Waldron pitching for San Diego. Really, he's the only guy left in Major League Baseball that throws a knuckleball on a regular basis. And his last 7 starts, his game score average is a 63. 63. That's what aces do. The best pitchers in baseball throw a 63. Brown's a 66. Crochet's a 67. Those are the only 2 pitchers in all of the board today that are better than Waldron today. So, and Waldron's last start was a game score 30. So he had his offset day. So I think he's going to pitch a pretty good day today. I think that his format of what he throws is troubling because they don't see it. Now, they play in the same division, so they've seen it some. But Fats throws for Arizona, and San Diego certainly has seen fastballs and sliders and stuff that he's going to throw. So I think the edge then falls to San Diego's offense, and I think the edge falls to the San Diego pitcher. Now, Fat on the other side, he's off a game score 60. So it's a high number for him, especially when you consider the last 7 starts is a 48, so below average, and his season's a 52, slightly above average. So he had an offset to the positive. He's going to regress back to what he normally does, and Waldron should be progressing to a higher spot. So this is one of those spots where we isolate a pitcher that one's regressing and one's progressing. I don't like it quite as well just because I don't have a big offensive edge to take advantage of it because both offenses are good. But then so now you're saying I got to rely on the pitcher, and I'll rely on the knuckleballer because they don't see him that much. And then when this came down to numbers and price, my number on this game was San Diego minus 129, so minus 130, and you can get it at minus 119. So they're on sale. So buy them on sale, right? They're the home team. Last night they had 47,000 people at Petco Park. That was the largest single crowd they've ever had there. So I suspect Manny Machado is starting to hit. The Merrill's playing great for San Diego. Profar hit the home run in the 9th inning to tie the game. So I like the idea that this is a small home favorite that's underpriced, and I think that you can get them on sale and buy them and be all good. Now, that's play number 3. Play number 3 then is going to be the San Diego Padres minus the 119 or 118 or 120, whatever you get them at. So that brings me to one conversation we need to have around pricing of these games and these teams. So one of the things you have to be very cognizant of and very sharp with is adjustments that you make based on who's playing and who's not. So I'll tell you how I do it. And the way I do it is, unless there's a cluster of injuries, I don't adjust it at all. I don't care who's playing and who's not playing. So let's make sure I say this correctly. So, for example, when you see a lineup come out and let's just say Aaron Judge isn't playing, well, that's a different problem than, say, Anthony Rizzo not playing, right? So you might have to make a little adjustment based off the value that one guy has. Now, he's an extreme, right? He's an extreme. So let's just use the example we just talked about with the Padres. So let's just say Manny Machado's not playing. I don't care. He's not going to be that valuable in that one game that it's going to cost me to bet that. Now, on a side, totals might be totally different because, you know, his bat may mean more runs or maybe whatever. But the replacement player for that one day, that one value day, is usually somebody who's going to be hyped up, ready to go and actually produce. So I don't think you don't have that. Now, when you have cluster problems, you got a bigger issue. And the cluster is like what the Phillies are going through. The Phillies have Harper and Schwarber not playing. So what tends to happen is, and I'm seeing it every single solitary time that I'm looking at these numbers, it's again today, there's an overpriced reaction to the Phillies. Guys, do you know the Phillies are the second best team in the National League? They're right behind the Dodgers. Their pitching is stellar compared to all the other teams. Their offense is good. It's borderline great, but it's not great when you don't have Schwarber, and it's not great when you don't have Harper. So you have to account for that. So I account in terms of actually taking 10% off the number. And when I take 10% off of the number, the value in the game that I have comes out to the Philadelphia Phillies. Where's the Braves and the Phillies today? There they are. It comes out to the minus 105, 105. And that's not true. That's the wrong deal. There it is. I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't the right deal. I have, my line is Phillies minus 108. That's what my number is. It's Phillies minus 108. Nope, I'm sorry, minus 140. My chart's over here messed up. So it's minus 140. And that's because Ranger Suarez is pitching. And Ranger Suarez is pitching against a pitcher that's a young kid, and the young kid for the Braves, his name's Schwellenbach. I like him. He's got pretty good stuff. But at the same time that I tell you that I like him, he's made 5 starts, and they're 1-5 when he pitches. And when Ranger Suarez pitches, they pitch 17 times. They've won 14 games. That's the best in baseball. 17 starts, they've won 14 times. And he's facing the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves aren't the Atlanta Braves of last year. This team is ranked 24th in offense, 23rd in isolated power, and they are 16% worse than an average offense right now. So the over adjustments are crazy. So there's way big, and that's exactly what we said yesterday. We said to bet on Aaron Nola, and they won. Today you have Schwellenbach on the mound, pitched 6 times in Major League Baseball. 6. And only won once, and they're favored. Are you kidding? That's not good. That's too much of an over adjustment. And you got strong value with the Phillies today. I didn't bet it, but I'm gonna tell you there's strong value there if that's something that you feel like you want to do, because Ranger Suarez has been getting hit more so lately than he had been in the past. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen that way today, but I do think that the theory that I'm trying to talk about is an over adjustment. You see it in football. You see it in a lot of things, right? A running back's not going to play, so they adjust the line a certain number of points. So you got to be careful on who the player is. Every case is uniquely different. But as a whole, unless there's a cluster of injuries, like in football, you don't want to have your left guard, left tackle, and right tackle not available, and you have all the backups in there, they're going to get crushed. But if you're missing one guy, unless he's the quarterback and he's a valuable quarterback or something, there's like I said, it's different. So baseball is the same way. Don't worry about who's not playing, because they'll overcome that unless it's a cluster of injuries. And then you have to have a truer evaluation on what it looks like in terms of what should the line be and what should the adjustment mean. So this tells me that 2 things. One, I think the Braves are overpriced in the market. I think the Phillies are probably underpriced in the market. And I think there's an over adjustment in the market for the Phillies and what they're doing. You got to realize that they've won more games without those 2 guys than I thought they would. They're scoring more runs than I thought they would. Their offense hasn't dropped dramatically. I mean, it's the 15th, middle of the pack. But at the same time, they could have been dropped all the way down to the worst, but they're not. Trey Turner has stepped up. He's doing great. Castellanos has stepped up. He's doing well. So Marsh is driving in RBIs. We said all those things yesterday. That's a big difference in these teams. And the other part of it is they don't have to go out and score 7 runs to win. Well, they did yesterday, but they don't normally. Their pitching is really good. So they hold the pitcher, the opponent's batters down. And when you're looking at a Braves team, until they wake up and start scoring a bunch of runs, this is a team that is overvalued. Now, they're a good team. Don't get me wrong. I think they still win 90 games, 89 games, but that's not going to win this division. And they'll be probably the first wild card. So they're going to need some trade deadline help to make this team stronger, better, deeper, make this team really start really going some. And who knows how that's all going to look. Real excited for that, because I think that's going to change a lot of dynamics. And there's a lot of teams that are kind of just on the fringe outside looking in that can do a lot of stuff. For example, what if the Boston Red Sox decide we're going to go make some big changes and bring in some guys that can help us? That team could be good. It's not that they're not good now, but they could run down the Yankees, for example. So it's one of those spots where you just kind of look at it and see what happens and who does what. It's a trade deadline, and as we go. So I gave out 3 plays today. We gave out the Padres, we gave out the Lugo play, and we gave out the San Francisco Giants play. And so you just have to be careful sometimes on what you're looking at and where you're going. I'm hopeful that some of the discussion that we have, or some of the discussion that I have on here, can help you with understanding what we're doing right? We're doing specific things. I'm not just throwing numbers on the wall and going, oh, I like this, right? We're attacking pitchers that are terrible. We're using value from the numbers that I generate. Webby odds come out, and we find value in those things. We're taking edges that we find in offense. So let me ask you this question and just throw it out here just as a general thing. If you have two pitchers that are even, and you're looking at those guys and trying to decide on, okay, what pitchers can I do? Because 80% of 85% of what people do, 90% of what they do is they look at all the starting pitchers, right? What I'm trying to show you is offense is way different and easier to handicap. And the reason I tell you that is because there's 30 teams, and in those 30 teams, it fluctuates, it rotates for 7 days because these guys get hot and cold, offenses come and go. So you got to stay on top of it a little bit. But at the same time that you're doing that, you can isolate strong offenses against poor pitching, or even strong offenses against decent pitching, where the other team has bad offense. That's what I see a lot, like from these free Twitter accounts and free Twitter things, and I don't know, ESPN guys or whoever, name brand people. They all they do is they want to go bet pitchers, and that's okay if that's what you want to do, but you're not going to win that way. You need to win way more often than you lose to make money in baseball. So losing is we've talked about this, it's deadly in baseball. You can't really lose. So you want to have more ways to find winners, and analyzing offense and the disparity between the two offenses and hot offenses, is important. Baseball's 162 games. So every team's going to win 50 games. Every team's going to lose 50 games. Every team's going to get hot. Every team's going to get cold. You got to know when they're hot and know when they're cold. Bet on them and bet against them. Isolate bad pitchers. Isolate great pitchers because they can shut down other teams, and you can bet on that. Like we did yesterday, we bet on, a pitcher to shut down the Colorado Rockies offense, and he did. So the point being is you can do a lot of different things with data and information, but you got to have a thought process of, what am I going to do with the information? Because if you just look at the information, you get lost in the data. Don't get lost in the data. Use that to make a point and use that to make a bet. But understand what your bet is, because you got to cover it, right? So that's kind of where I'm at today, is trying to show you those things a little bit. Go follow me on Twitter. Webby20MLB is my handle there. Go to my website, sign up for the free newsletter. Every time I put something out, it'll come to your email. Or you can become a client. It costs you $100, and you get everything that I have. You get the plays that I make, that I bet personally. You get the Webby odds, so my numbers. You get an EV tool, so it shows you my Webby odds against sports books, and then you'll be able to say, oh, well, if I make this bet 1,000 times, I'm going to get a return on investment on this bet of X percent. So EV positive, you'll know what your percentage is. You get the pitching performance reports that I refer to every day. You get the offense reports that I refer to every day. You get a score predictor that's in there all the time. And that score predictor is pretty neat because it's broke down. That helps me. So one of the things that I do is I break down a pitcher and how many innings is he going to pitch. Is he going to pitch 4.5 innings? Is he going to pitch 5 innings? Is he going to pitch 6? Is he going to pitch more than 6? 5.5? And then the first 5 inning calculator takes into account how many innings he's going to pitch, and then how much bullpen is going to go into that. Sometimes they only pitch 4 innings. Sometimes it works out great for certain situations when you have an opener and the opener is only going to throw for a couple innings. Well, I can put his data in there. Then all of a sudden, okay, I've got that data, then the bullpen data, and I can get a first 5 number, and it comes out with a score. And I'm like, this is great. So I can get a first 5 score. I can get a total score. So I can use those for totals, can use those for whatever you need to. So anyway, those are all things that are available to you. The least case, do me a big favors. We're trying to drive traffic on this channel. We're trying to get subscribers. We're trying to get things because it helps in a lot of things. If I had a sponsor of this show that was, paying a sponsorship because I had viewership here, one of the things would be I wouldn't have to charge anybody anything for nothing. The only reason I charge people anything anyway is because it grows this account. It grows the technology. It keeps the internet going. It keeps the services of where the data comes from in here. It pays for that kind of stuff. The software that it takes to run these programs and to do all this stuff, it's a lot more than you think it is. Now, having said all those things, all you got to do that is like the content, hit like on all the applications wherever you're doing it from, whether it's YouTube or Twitter or Twitch or wherever, and subscribe. And that way, when stuff comes up, you get the notifications and all that kind of stuff so that you're here. When you're driving those views, then stuff happens. Stuff happens positively for guys like me that are doing these things. And then I can provide you with more services as we go along down the road. And that's what this is about. So anyway, I appreciate everybody coming on. Today's Saturday. I didn't have any games that were tight to the window today, so I felt good about that. So let's have good luck tonight. Let's win some games. Tomorrow is Sunday. I will be back here on Sunday at 12 noon. I will not be on Monday. Mondays usually travel days and shorter slates, so you don't have to talk about them so much. So then it'll be Tuesday. But so let's have a good night tonight. Let's win some more bets, and then we will go at it tomorrow. And guys, look, one last final note, comments, right? And if I don't go over a game that you have a question on or you want to know some information about, just put it in the comments. I'll bring it. We'll do it live right here. We'll break it down. We'll talk about the pictures and what the thoughts are and how to analyze it, and we'll do it just like that. But we're not getting those. We need interaction. We need some things. We need some engagement. So if you have questions, make sure you ask. That's what I'm here for. I want to make sure that you know that we're available to do those things. So again, it's Saturday. Let's have a great day. I'm going to spend the rest of my night looking at watching the games, but working on football today. So a lot of things going on, guys. So I will see you tomorrow, and let's have a good day today.